grand jury today returned a 2-count indictment against James Richard Rick Perry. Count 1 of the indictment charges him with abuse of official capacity, a first-degree felony, and count 2 of the indictment charges him with coercion of a public servant, a third-degree felony. There's been an immense amount of work that has gone into my investigation up to this point. I have interviewed over 40 people that were related in some way to the events that happened. I've reviewed hundreds of documents, read dozens and dozens of cases and case law, and information to a great extent was presented to the grand jury. They deliberated and returned this indictment. The first count of abuse of official capacity, I'm sure you'll get a copy of the indictment, but it basically charges that on the day of the veto, June 14th of 2013, that Governor Perry intentionally or knowingly misused the government property that had come into his custody or control. That is, the money that had been approved and authorized by the legislature of the state of Texas to provide for funding of the Public Integrity Unit. That he intentionally knowingly misused those monies. Count 2 of the indictment charges him with coercion of threatening Rosemary Lehmberg in her capacity as public servant to resign, or otherwise that he would veto the legislation. Those are the 2 counts, and so does anybody have any questions?
Did Governor Perry ever testify before the grand jury?
No, he did not.
Did you ever speak with him?
No, I've not spoken with Governor Perry.
Were there other counts considered?
I can't describe anything that went on before the grand jury. I know that I looked in all applicable statutes. I looked at statutes of official oppression, bribery, and some other things, but these are the 2 counts that have been returned by the grand jury.
Where specifically does this go from here? What's the process? What's the timetable?
Next week, we're going to set up a time for Governor Perry to come before court to be arraigned and given notice of his constitutional rights, and given notice of the charges against him and the statutory penalties that he's facing. That date has not been set yet. It'll be set probably Monday sometime.
What are the penalty ranges?
He would appear Monday? I'm sorry.
No, he will not appear, but I will be working with Mr. Perry's lawyer to set a time for when Mr. Perry will be coming into court.
Did you meet with the lawyer will occur Monday?
One question, please.
Is that Monday appearance and arraignment?
No.
Mr. Perry?
Monday is a date that I'm going to be meeting with Mr. Perry's lawyer to and the judge to informally to come up with a date for Mr. Perry's first appearance.
Did you subpoena him to testify?
No.
Why not?
That's prosecutorial discretion that I had, and I had ongoing conversations with his attorney, so that's where we're at.
Did they refuse to testify voluntarily?
I'm not going to comment on that.
How is this different than just hardball politics?
The grand jury spoken that at least there's probable cause to believe that he committed 2 crimes, 2 felony crimes.
What is the kind of penalty that could be, and if it went to its logical conclusion?
For count 1, it's a 5 to 99 years in prison, and for count 2, it's 2 to 10 years in prison.
This is a Democratic county. This will, I'm sure, be described at some point as a partisan witch hunt. How would you answer that?
I'm not going to get into that. That didn't go into my consideration whatsoever. I looked at the law, I looked at the facts, and I presented everything possible to the grand jury.
Do you stay on as the prosecutor in this case going forward?
Yes.
Would you oppose any effort to move this trial to another county?
I'm not going to comment on any hypothetical motions that might be filed by the defendant. I can't say until I read the motion and consider the law and the facts.
But you wouldn't arbitrarily oppose it?
I'm not going to comment on any hypothetical motions that might be filed.
How do you feel with the grand jury and what they brought back today?
I'm ready to go forward. My task is district attorney in this case. The grand jury has spoken, and I'm going forward to carry out the duties that have been bestowed upon me.
Did you feel it was pretty clear-cut?
I feel confident of the charges that have been filed.
Can you give us just a quick ballpark count of how many days, how many weeks that this grand jury has met? A way to quantify
no, I can't.
It for us?
I don't recall. I know it's been months. My wife thinks it's been longer, probably.
Is there any thought about how this might affect Governor Perry as he carries out the duties of his office or by his higher office? Is that any consideration for you at all?
I took into account the fact that we're talking about a governor of a state and a governor of the state of Texas, which we all love. Obviously, that carries a level of importance, but when it gets down to it, the law is the law and the elements are the elements, and the analysis is whether or not the facts meet the elements of the offense.
Have you had conversations with the DA's office here today? Any more with specifically?
I've talked with a member of the DA's office, but more just about logistics of how things work in Travis County, nothing about the merits of this case.
Would Governor Perry have to be booked into, how would the arraignment work?
Yes, it's a matter of procedure that anyone charged with felonies will have to be booked in.
Will he have like a mugshot, fingerprint?
I imagine that's included in that.
And that'll happen sometime next week.
I don't know.
Okay.
It depends what date we come up with. On
Do you
Monday.
believe the governor should step down during the pendency of this?
Oh, that's not an issue that I can comment on. That's way beyond the scope of what I'm doing.
As you did this investigation, was there anything about this investigation that stuck out to you as particularly troubling, just given a person in his position?
Yeah, I'm real hesitant to talk about the facts of the case now that it's a filed, it's a pending case. We'll see how the evidence presents itself, and we'll go forward. Okay. Wish all of you well.
Thank you.